Hey everybody, how are you? It's 12 o'clock all across the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, from all the way up in Fort Chip, all the way down to Fort McMurray, and here we are. I got to do a little bit of housekeeping, just really quick here. So Jeff, can you give that back to Margie, please? Thank you. And I also need someone to give me a dry erase pen that works, because this doesn't work. Okay. So maybe someone can do that. That's awesome. We're just scrambling live broadcast. That's what happens in live broadcast. And Margie's trying to find one right there. I think she's found one. And she'll be able to hand it to me here in just a second. There it is. I know how to work it. Thank you very much. Comes mysteriously out of nowhere. Very good. Excellent. How are you? Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing excellent on this wonderful Thursday morning. What are we doing? It's our coaching session. It's a coaching session for systems thinking. So, becoming a community builder, leadership boot camp, systems thinking. Now, if you look on the web page, and if you look over to the right, I've added some new systems, right? I've added some new systems that you can look at. Motivation, a system for motivating yourself and another human being into action. Delegation, I've put on there a system for delegation. Each one of those videos are about 18 minutes, 15 to 18 minutes long. There's corresponding handouts there as well. Delegation, motivation. I'll add, before we see each other face to face on Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday for Fort Chip, Wednesday for Fort McMurray, powerful communication, a system for powerful communication. So there's some systems on there. And we'll be adding the fundraising, for those of you on the nonprofit side, fundraising system and a system for recruiting volunteers. We'll be adding those. Remember, I told you there would be more systems than you could possibly take in a 3-week period of time. Today, we're going to take your questions, and we're also going to review time, because we're in the middle of that discussion, right? We're in the middle of the discussion of how to maximize the utilization of your time. On Monday and Tuesday, so I sent you that about a half-hour teaching session and asked you to watch 15 minutes on Monday, 15 minutes on Tuesday. Remember, 15 minutes a day. Asked you to watch Monday, asked you to watch Tuesday. Oh, and Jeff's got that up. Questions at RMWB-leaders.ca. You can type in your question and email it to questions at RMWB-leaders.ca. Margie is checking that email address, or you can put your info in the chat box, whatever you would prefer. So, on Monday and Tuesday, I said, watch the teaching. Break it up if you have to. It's about 29 minutes long. And it's good. It's good information. It's a system to maximize the utilization of your time. Then, yesterday, I asked you to take a look at the tool that you use. What's the tool that you use to organize yourself to maximize the utilization of your time? Because the tool was the landing gear to the concepts. And then today you got an email from me about planning your work and working your plan. Planning your work and working your plan. Tomorrow you're going to get an email from me to encourage you to do an exercise. That just reminded me of something. I got to write something down right now. Okay. To encourage you to do an exercise next week. And I'll see you next week, so we'll be able to talk about it. But you're going to track your time all next week. Where does my time go? So remember, I told you when we were face-to-face, we were going to spend a lot of time on time, maximizing utilization of your time, because it's important. Archimedes said, give me a place to stand and I will move the world. Remember, Archimedes said that. Give me a place to stand and I will move the world. Well, what was he really talking about? He was saying that if I have a system, a force multiplier, and I choose to use it, I can do great things. And remember, systems either organically grow up and take hold, or they were designed for a specific purpose. The question you have to ask yourselves is, are the systems I'm using ones that organically grew up and took hold, or are they ones that were for a specific purpose, and is that are those systems still relevant for the purpose they were built for? And you can use this concept, this systems concept, within the workplace. You can use the systems concept outside of the workplace. Systems concepts. Systems concepts. So for you and for me, there's not enough time, there's not enough energy, there's not enough effort to get done all the things I want to get done. I better have great systems. And if you want to reach your full potential in today's day and age, you better be a systems thinker. And if you want to make an impact in the community, you want to better be a systems thinker. And people, a couple of you sent me emails because you watched the movie. Did you watch the movie I gave you? I gave you a movie. Right? Let them be kids. I gave you the movie. And a couple of you have sent me notes. How were you guys able to do that? And how were you able to do so many communities? And da-da-da-da-da-da. Systems. Systems. How else would a group of volunteers be able to do all that? Great systems. So we're taking your questions, right? RMWB leaders, questions at rmwbleaders.ca. Or, of course, you can just put them in the chat box. Margie is waiting. I want to talk about time. Time. It's such an important... hold on before we talk about that. Commitment. Commitment. We're coming up on Tuesday or Wednesday. Will be 2.5 weeks of next week. When I see you face to face, it'll be 2.5 weeks since I asked for your commitment. Commitment. Have you made your commitment? Now, many of you have. Thank you so much. Many of you have made your commitment. If you haven't made your commitment, what are you going to do? You sent out those surveys. You wrote down the names of the 3 people whose lives would be better if you changed something. Hey, now's the time. If you haven't made your commitment, please do so. Okay, let's talk about maximizing the utilization of your time. Maximizing utilization. I'm going to put this right here, right there. That seems to work pretty well, right there. Okay, you only have 168 hours in a week. That's all you got, 168 hours in a week. Of that 168 hours, about 100 to 110 is usable. There is no more important tool to have in your toolkit than the ability to maximize the utilization of your time. Because time is a perishable commodity. I only have so much of it. And it's the one thing that winners and losers have in common. Time. If I can't maximize the utilization of my time, I'm not going to be a good dad today. What? Well, listen, because you'll be too stretched between work and family. If I don't know how to maximize the utilization of my time, I probably am not a fulfilled individual. Because it'll always be this crisis of balance. So if you really want to reach your full potential, then you better know how to use time to its fullest. Remember, perishable commodity, the one thing that winners and losers have in common. So I only have about 100 to 110 usable hours. And in that, I have a whole bunch of roles that I play in my life. That's the international symbol for roles. I don't know if you noticed that. I got a whole bunch of... I look very tan today. I look nice. I look healthy. Healthy tan man. I'm using a new facial product. Just so you know. Jack Black, it's called. Jack Black. It's excellent. Gives me my youthful look. Anyways, back to the subject matter. These are all the roles that I play in my life. All the roles that I play. Dad, boss, employee, employer, whatever. Nonprofit, volunteer, faith organization, time for myself. All of the roles that I play in my life. In each one of those roles, I have some goals that I'd like to achieve. Spouse, I'd like to be married till I die to the same person. Side note, to the same person. So I better do some things there. There are some goals that I have for my children, and I participate in that, right? Ultimately, it's my responsibility to turn out tax-paying, responsible, productive citizens called my kids. It's my responsibility to do that. It's my responsibility to lead the employees that I have, whose livelihoods and sustenance emanate from the work that we do. It's my responsibility to serve on the nonprofit boards that I'm on and initiatives that I'm a part of, and on and on and on. There's only one problem. There's only 100 hours. Holy cow. There's only 100 hours. So wouldn't it be in my best interest to find those activities? Look at how we're using this. This is very good. Wouldn't it be in my best interest to find those activities that when I do them, they give me a greater return? Right? So I do the activity, it gives me a greater return for the time that I'm investing. As opposed to some activities that when I do them, give me less return for my time invested. And remember, we call those high return on investment and low return on investment activities. So we want to do these and get rid of those. So we said first, identify them. Identify what those high return and low return activities are. We said identify them. Identify them. And then once identified, we said, if you watched the video today, which you probably didn't, or you may not have yet, we said that you're going to plan your work and work your plan. You're going to plan your work and work your plan. So on Sunday night, or early Monday morning, you're going to sit down and you're going to project out your week and you're going to reflect back. You're going to look at your week and say, high leverage activities. See, the high leverage activities should be the first things that you put in. The first things that you put in. The high leverage activity should be the first aspect that you put in. So what does that look like? Well, that might be time with spouse. That might be time with kid. That might be calling clients. That might be spending time with employees. That might be planning. Whatever. I put those in first. Well, don't you need to put in the meetings first? No. I make sure I put in the time for the high leverage activity. Remember from the original teaching video, that's called time blocking. I'm going to time block in the high return on investment activities. Then I'm going to time block in the appointments that I have. So I go through and I time block in the appointments that I have. Time block in the appointments that I have for the week. Then I'm going to time block in those things that I know I need to do. What do you mean? Well, like if I know I need to do a report by the end of the week, I better make an appointment with myself to do that. Notice what I said. Make an appointment with myself. See, I don't blow off appointments that I have with other people. So I make an appointment with myself to do that work. So I make an appointment with myself to do that high leverage activity with my wife. Or I make an appointment with myself to do that activity with my kids. Make an appointment with myself. So I might make an appointment with myself to answer email. You know you're going to have to answer email. And for those of you that are urgency addicted, you're urgency addicted to email. And so you end up spending the whole day doing nothing but answering the email. You get to the end of your day, you're exhausted, but you didn't really do anything except answer email. You didn't move forward towards your goals and aspirations. Remember, that's the key, that each one of the roles that I have has goals, right? Each one of the roles has goals. And then I allocate time into each one of those to ensure that I'm moving forward. Now, as I look at my schedule, I'm projecting my week, I put in the high leverage activities in each role that I play. Then I put in the appointments. So the circles are the appointments. Then I put in those things that I just know I need to do. I need to answer emails. So maybe you answer emails in the morning and you answer emails in the afternoon. Because emails are important, but they're not urgent. And then maybe I do that, each day, morning, evening, or maybe morning, midday, evening, afternoon. So I'm not doing emails all day long. Phone calls. Do you have to really respond to that phone call right now? Or can it go to voicemail and then you get back to them? It's urgent, but is it important? All of a sudden, I take control of the 100 hours that have been given to me. Remember the great banker. I take control. I put my time into those things that are going to give me the greatest return. I avoid those things that give me the least return. And then what do I do with this schedule? Then every day I'm going to review it. Now, one thing I forgot to mention. I mentioned it in the teaching video. Assumptive planning. So I can assume a few things. Like it used to be that I don't have as much staff anymore, but when I had 1,100 employees, 8 a.m., I'm not going to get anything done. Because from 8 a.m. to 9:30, everybody wants my time. Everybody wants my time. Everybody wants to talk to me. Everybody needs an answer. Things happened overnight because we were a 24-hour operation. So if I tried to hold a meeting, literally, if I tried to hold a meeting, let's do I'm running out of things to do, a star or a diamond. If I tried to do a meeting any time between 8 a.m. and 9:30, it was always be derailed. And it took me a little while to understand that. So I'd set a meeting for 8:30, thinking I could come in, take a half hour, and then I'd have to tell everybody in the meeting, I got an emergency I got to take care of. Or I told the emergency, you got to wait, I got to call a meeting. I got to handle the meeting. So all of a sudden, I was never fulfilled. It was always bumpy. But that's because I wasn't taking into consideration things I could assume. Things that just routinely happen, but actually have a pattern. They seem spontaneous, but they actually have a pattern. One of the reasons I'm going to have you track your time next week and where your time goes is so that you can see if there's any patterns that you can plan around. It's feng shui. I don't know if you ever heard of feng shui, right? Feng shui. Sometimes I work out of my house. And my son, Kian, as some of you know, is autistic. And when Kian tries to take a bath, we take him in the bath at 10:30 every day. He's 10:30 in the morning every day for a bath. And when I am working out of the house, if I try to do a conference call at 10:30, it's going to be a wreck because Kian screams. He's loud in the bathtub. He's screaming. And literally, we have a pretty big house, and no matter how far I go, you can hear Kian screaming. So it's a mistake to try to go against the flow of that. So just don't schedule any meetings at 10:30 or go where you can have a phone call, right? So I shouldn't get frustrated. Why is that kid screaming? No. I should know that at 10:30 every day something's going to happen, and if I want to make phone calls, I should go somewhere where I can make phone calls without a kid screaming. Does that make sense? So when we look at this, as we do our projection and we do our reflection, we drop in, first, the high leverage activities. It'll help us get to our goals in each one of our roles faster. Then we drop in the appointments that we know we have with other people. And remember, these are making an appointment with myself. Those high leverage activities, I make an appointment with myself to do that activity. Then I drop in the things that I know I have to do. I know I have to answer email. I know I have to respond to phone calls. So I just drop those in. And then I drop in the things that I can assume. I assume my boss always wants to talk to me on Wednesdays. Invariably, he's going to call me in and talk to me on Wednesdays. Well, I assume that. I plug it in. But what happens when he doesn't do that, Ian? I picked up an hour. Just like by leaving my time free for those early morning crises as the boss, and then there is no crisis, I just picked up an hour. This idea of maximizing utilization of your time is really about being self-aware, and it's really about being disciplined. Self-aware. What are those activities that move? Well, first, what are the roles that I play? What are the goals that I have? That's self-aware. Then, what are the activities that get me closer? What are the activities that take me further away? High leverage activity. That's self-aware. And then it's taking that and then being aware enough to know how your week and day flows. And then it's being disciplined enough to make appointments with yourself to do those things. Yeah, but I don't understand how the impact comes. The impact comes because more days than not, more weeks than not, I'm doing things that would move me closer to my goals. And now I'm proactively, big picture, proactive systems thinker. I'm proactively controlling my time to the degree possible. Now, does that mean that you're going to look one day at this and all of a sudden you're going to have a crisis and your whole day went to crap? Of course that's going to happen. What, you crazy? But the difference is because you have a plan, it's easier to get back on track. Yeah, but what about my to-do list, Ian? What about my to-do list? What am I going to do with my to-do list? Well, I'm okay with that, but I would do it for a week. I would have a to-do list for a week. Well, what do you mean? Well, instead of having a to-do list for a day, this is what I need to do this day. I would say this is what I need to do for the week, right? This is all the stuff I got to get done in the week. And then the white space in my schedule is where I chip away at this to-do list. And I purposely leave white space in my schedule to chip away at the to-do list. Chip away at the to-do list. So that when a day goes awry and goes crazy, I'm not ending that day going, ugh, what a failed day. I didn't get to do anything on my to-do list. Well, no. My to-do list is for the week. This is what I'm trying to get done for the week. Yeah, but I still don't understand how you handle deadlines. Here's the funny thing. If I know I have a deadline 2 weeks out, I'm making an appointment with myself to work on it so that that deadline doesn't become a crisis. Yeah, but what happens when something gets thrown on my table and I have to do it immediately? That's when I might have to chuck my whole day, might have to chuck it. But because I knew what I was doing in that day, it's easier then to reflect and project, right? I look, I lost my day. Let me see if I can take those things and put them back in for the next couple days. Or I'll just pick them up next week. But because I'm planning, I'm able to do that. Does it make sense? Final thought, managing expectations. Somebody says to you, I need you to do blank. My immediate response is, when do you need that by? Just when do you need that by? What if it's your boss, Ian? Then I say this, awesome boss, I'm happy to do that for you. When exactly will you need that? Or I might say this. I might say, that's cool, boss, I can get it for you. Will Friday be okay? No, I need it tomorrow. Okay? I just know what I got to do. I know that tomorrow just got shot to crap, or the rest of today got shot to crap because he needs it tomorrow. Okay, no problems. Managing those expectations. When do you need that by? Oh, just get it to me by next Friday. Okay, I'm going to plug it in and make an appointment with myself to get that done. When do you need it by? 5 o'clock today. Okay, so there's some stuff that's not going to get done today. Or I might proactively manage the expectation. Is it okay if I get that to you next Friday? No, that won't work. I got to have it for a Tuesday meeting. Okay, I'll get it to you by Monday close of business. I'm managing expectations. Managing expectations. System. Do you have a system to maximize the utilization of your time? Now look, you can ask some questions. I'm rattling on here, but you can ask some questions. Questions at RMWBleaders.ca, or you can just put the questions in the chat box. Margie is patiently waiting for you to ask questions. I got to believe you have some questions around this approach to utilization of time. Proactive, big picture, systems thinker. Now, in addition, I put some information. I put a video on the portal, a teaching video on delegation. Delegation. Are you any good at delegating to other people? Are you any good at giving things to other people to do? Delegation is a funny thing. You can see when poor delegation is in play. You've probably actually experienced poor delegation. Poor delegation sounds something like this. I didn't know you wanted me to do that. Or like this. I can't believe you did that. Or this. Why don't they just let me do that? Or this. How come they just don't do that? Poor delegation. And in today's day and age, with things being as hectic as they are, we got to be great delegators. And so do you have a system for delegation? Most people don't. And the reason that most people don't have a system for delegation is because, number one, it's not easy. And number two, they're afraid they're going to get burned. Yeah, every time I give people to do stuff, they screw it up. And I got to end up doing it myself. That's because you're not an effective delegator. Don't blame them. So what's the key to effective delegation? Well, I'm not going to go into a long dissertation about it because there's a 20-minute training video on there with a handout that I want you to really watch. But I will say this. It's actually quite simple because it's just clarifying roles. See, there's only two ways to get things done. Only two ways. You're going to do it, I'm going to do it, and something in between. Well, that's three ways. Okay, there's three ways to get things done. You're going to do it, I'm going to do it, and something in between. And it's the something in between that usually screws us up. Because sometimes I give people something to do that they're not capable of doing. And that's the something in between. Or I hold on to things that they're absolutely capable of doing. And I shouldn't be doing it. It frustrates me. It frustrates them. Poor delegation is a malady. It's a sickness in our organizations, in our society. So, Margie's got a question.
Of the 168 hours in a week, 110 are usable.
Perhaps. Whoa. Perhaps usable. Because you got to take out driving, eating, and sleeping. But go ahead.
Is it safe to assume that the other hours are lost to sleep, or does it take something else into consideration?
No. If you take 110 hours in your week, obviously a fact-based communicator, right? A fact-based communicator. So if you have 168 hours, and you have 7 days in your week, and let's just say you sleep 6 hours, that's 42, right? That's 42. So if you subtract that, 126. Now let's say just cumulative in a whole day, you eat for an hour. That's 7, right? 7. So now you're down to 119. Now remember I said there's 100 to 110 usable. Now some people use this 7 to eat, and that's why they have, or to work. That's why they have indigestion. And then you got to drive, right? And if you drive down Franklin Avenue, right, in Fort McMurray, well then you might as well just take out another 14 hours out of your week. No, Ian, it's not as bad as driving the 401. Okay, don't attack Ontario, don't attack Toronto, but I don't know. Sometimes I sit on Franklin Avenue and I think I'm on the 401. Anyways, let's just say total driving time for the week, total driving time, 7 days, total time, hour a day, hour and 20 minutes a day. Let's just say it's an hour and a quarter a day. To work here and there, drop the kids, yada, 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 la, 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 la. Now, obviously in Fort Chip, it's a lot less, right? I mean, come on. How long does it take me to get where the plane, the airport there, to Keanu College? Doesn't take me very long. And then around the corner to Miss Ma's to have a little chicken fried rice, and then I'm back to the plane, right? It doesn't take me that long. But generally speaking, let's just take off another 9 hours of driving. That's how I get my 100 to 110 of usable hours. Now, some people sleep more, some people sleep less. Some people take more time to eat, some people don't. Some people have more commute, some people don't. Now, I know what you're going to say. We pick up time here, here, and here. These are the guys. These are the guys on the 401 that are driving and working on their computer in the traffic jam. These are the people that do the business meeting, the breakfast meeting, and all those things. And then these are the people that only sleep 5 hours. So there's 35. So they're trying to pick up time on things that we shouldn't pick up time on. We should just be more efficient with the 100 to 110. Go, Margie.
I don't have anything.
Oh, she didn't have anything. She's just looking at me like, well, that's quite interesting. Anyways, so my point is that it's like me sitting down with my kids, Nia and Nadia. And Nia and Nadia come to me the other day, and they're like, we want to do gymnastics. And I'm like, okay, what are you taking out to put in gymnastics? Well, we just want to do it. And we sat down and went through this. You get out of school, my one kid is online school, but Nadia gets out of school, by the time she gets home it's 3:30. She goes to bed no later than 8:30. That's 5 hours. So you got 5 hours every day, 5 days, 25 hours. Right? She got 5 hours. Well, automatically dinner, we try to eat dinner as a family together, so that's 5 hours. Now we're down to 20. Then she's got to do her homework, at least an hour of homework. Now we're down to 15. So she got 15. She got 3 usable hours a day. That's what I said to her. You got 3 usable hours a day. And 3 of those days is karate. So now you got 2 days. 2 days. And a karate, and then you throw on top of that, she got playtime. So I said, you tell me, Nadia, where you're going to squeeze it in. You're not going to have time for your webkins. You're not going to have time to listen to your music. You're not going to have time to watch your show. You're not going to have time to do all that because you're going to be flying all around life. And you know what's funny? The same thing Nadia did, we all do. I'll just take it on. Well, where's it going to fit? See, if I'm organizing, if I'm organizing myself, come to this camera. If I'm organizing myself and I've got my high leverage, and I've got my appointments, and I got the things that I can assume, and I've got those things that just always happen. If I got that stuff blocked in my week, and then somebody asks me, hey, can you take on something else? No, I can't. Or, you know what? Yes, I can. I can take that on. Or your boss. And I've done this back when I had a boss. I've done this. No problems, boss. I'm happy to do that. Those other 5 things you gave me as a priority, which one of those would you like me to take down to number 6 to put your thing up to number 1? Let them make the priority decision. Now, it sounds come off being rude, but it's not being rude. It's just you gave me 5 priorities. Now you're adding a 6th. Any one of those priorities you want me to take to 6 so I can move that up to 1? People say to me, a couple of you, actually one of you, not couple, one of you emailed me and say, well, how do I say no? You show them your schedule. You just say, I'm not exactly sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm honored that you would invite me to participate. I had to do that the other day. I'm honored that you would invite me to be on this national board. But you know what? I don't have time. And that's how you ensure that you use the 110 in each one of the, remember, that's the international symbol for roles, for each one of the roles you play in your life. Does it completely eliminate feeling overwhelmed sometimes? No. It says level of authority. No. Disregard that. Jeff is playing around. So, does it eliminate it? No. Every once in a while, right? Every once in a while, I'll feel overwhelmed. And there are times still now when I feel overwhelmed. But I've mitigated that significantly. So I strongly encourage you to look at that video if you haven't watched it from Monday. Take 2 days, 15 minutes a day. Then check out the email that was sent to you on Wednesday that talks about the tool. Today, we discussed how to build your plan, kind of what we talked about. And tomorrow, I'm going to give you an exercise for next week. And that exercise has to do with tracking your time. We're going to track our time. And then I'll explain to you what it could mean. Now, we were talking about delegation. There's a training video there. Now, don't forget, you can ask your questions. These go a lot better when you ask questions. We only got 11 minutes left, or whatever it is, 12 minutes left. So they go a lot better when you ask questions. Delegation is where we were before we had that question. Delegation. So I've got to be able to have some way to clarify what you're going to do, what I'm going to do, and what is in between. What do you mean by that? Stuff that I can let you do, but I kind of want to be involved to make sure it doesn't become a mess. Stuff that you're kind of good at, but not perfect. Perfect's not the right word. Stuff that you're somewhat proficient, but you haven't exhibited mastery. That stuff. The stuff in between. Stuff that is your responsibility, but you don't have knowledge of. Stuff that is your requirement, but you're not great at. That's the in-between stuff. And that's where delegation gets hung up. So in the video, I'm going to talk to you about levels of authority. That's why Jeff brought that up on the screen. Levels of authority. And how you can clarify for your people and for you what you're going to be involved in and what you're not going to be involved in. When you're going to be there and when you're not going to be there. When they can expect you and when they know you're going to leave them alone. And it's all going to be based on proficiency. What do you mean? It's all going to be based on how good they are at something. If they're really, really, really good at it, leave them alone. If they're not so good at it, you're going to be involved. If they're kind of good at it, you're going to be involved, but maybe not all the time, not as regularly. Levels of authority. The first level of authority, pretty simple. Ask and recommend. Ask and recommend. There you go. Good job, Jeff. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a list of everything that somebody does. And those areas they're not so good at, it's going to be ask and recommend. Then those areas they're kind of good at, it's going to be act and tell me right away. Act and report immediately. Then in those areas that they're pretty good at, it's going to be act, go do it. But just tell me every once in a while. Report periodically. And then finally, act on own. And it's going to be an agreement between you and the person you work with. And through this, you're going to free up your time because you're only going to be involved in those areas where they need you. And through this, you're going to stop micromanaging them because you're not going to bug them in the areas that they're great at. And now we have a system. Just like a system to come up with a great idea. Just like a system to manage or maximize the utilization of my time. Just like a system for delegation. And just like a system for motivation. How do you move another human being into action? Remember, motivation is just that which moves me into action. That's all it is. That which moves me into action. That's all motivation is. Motivation isn't a pep talk. No. Motivation is not a pep talk. And motivation isn't a rah-rah. Motivation is not a rah-rah. Motivation isn't any of those things. Especially today. We don't want pep talks. You don't want pep talk. You don't want someone to give you a speech, pump you up. Yeah, but I like those days at Keanu College, Ian. You pump me up. Yeah, but how long will that last? About 15 weeks. Because about the 16th week, you're going to be like, I've had enough of Ian. So, I know, some of you never have enough of Ian. Not true! So, it's deeper than that. It's broader than that. There's more to motivation today than that. So what's motivation today? Motivation today is understanding someone's hot button, utilizing some motivational technique to get them moving, move them into action, and then eventually grow them to be self-motivated. That's motivation today. That's motivation today. Helping another human being see their potential, helping them develop a plan to that potential, encouraging them as they walk out that plan, coaching them and supporting them when they stumble, celebrating them when they achieve. And all of that is based on listening. So isn't it funny? I would recommend to you that being a great motivator today isn't about talking. It's actually about listening. I don't have to give a great fiery speech. I just got to listen to you to the level that you believe that I understand you. And then I've got to help you see your potential or whatever talent you have. And then I've got to help you create a plan to use your talent to be good at something. And then support you in that. If I'll do that, you'll be motivated. And it will also move you towards being self-motivated. Now, there are some things that I might have to do to get you into action, whether that be the boss method of motivation, whether that be the tangible approach to motivation, tricky approach to motivation, and the like. Now, everything that I just described was in that video. So I'm not going to beat it up. I'm not going to go into too much depth because that's why I want you to watch the video, because it explains it, and there's a handout that goes with it. So whether it's delegation, whether it's motivation, whether it's time, or whether it's how to think outside the box, all of those are systems. Okay, look, we only got 5 minutes left, so ask a question if you got it. Don't be asking me a question 1 minute before we're supposed to end. That always drives me crazy. So if you got a question, put it in now. So those are all systems. Most of us used to think to be a great motivator, you had to be born a great motivator. Or you had to be born with the skills for organization. Or you had to be born to know people dynamics to be a good delegator. Or you had to be born creative. Now, I'm not saying that certain people aren't predisposed to certain things. I'm not saying that. But everything I just said is a learned trait. Everything I just said you can learn. You can learn how to maximize the utilization of your time. You can learn how to be a creative thinker through your pattern of thinking. You can learn how to be effective delegating, and you can learn how to be an effective motivator. Now, I've given you some systems. Now, over the coming days and weeks, I want you to come back and revisit these systems. Now, if delegation is something you've been struggling with, then you need to watch that video today and over the next couple days. If motivation is something that's already intrigued you, you need to watch that video today or the next couple of days. Or over the weekend when I put on the video on effective communication, you need to watch that this weekend if that's a place that you are struggling. And in the coming days, when we put the information on there about fundraising for nonprofits or volunteer recruitment, and that's applicable to you, then you need to grab it. You need to grab it. And even if you don't like any of these systems, fine. Get your own. Because it is a fact. There's not enough time, energy, or effort to get done everything you want to get done. There's not enough time, energy, or effort to fulfill all the roles. And there's not enough time, energy, and effort for you to reach your full potential in today's day and age. So it must be systems-based. Archimedes was correct. Give me a place to stand and I will move the world. He wasn't being verbose. He wasn't being arrogant. He wasn't being haughty. He just knew this. Systems either organically grow up or they can be developed for a specific purpose. And remember, a system is just a deeply integrated set of parts organized in a logical way to accomplish a specific task. That's a system. Are you a systems thinker? Are you a big picture, holistic systems thinker? Because we need you to be. Last time I was there in Fort Chip, I told you guys, there's some systems in play in Fort Chip. Some are good, some aren't so good. Are we going to proactively go out and develop better systems to help us get where we want to go? Systems for developing our youth and our young people. Systems for creating a sense of community and breaking down walls and barriers and people for stepping out of their silos. Systems for creating economic development or tourism and the like. But those systems are the same systems, ironically, that also need to be deployed or enhanced in Fort McMurray, or in Janvier, or in Edmonton, or in Toronto, or in Mumbai, or in Manila, or in Mexico City. So just because we're in a rural community, our problems are different, but it's going to take a systems approach, a holistic systems approach. Because when we try to solve the problem by taking a sliver, we'll always come up short. Okay, so what do we have to look forward to now? Well, first of all, you need to make your commitment. If you haven't made a commitment, you need to make your commitment. Second of all, starting next week when we get together, we're going to introduce the next competency. Buy-in. How do you get buy-in? How do you develop pride? How do you get another human being to do more? Catalyst for responsibility. And that's what we're going to be talking about when we get together on Tuesday in Fort Chip, and when we get together on Wednesday in Fort McMurray, both at Keanu College. We're going to talk about how do I get buy-in? How do I build pride? How do I move others into action? How do I act as a catalyst for responsibility? As always, we thank you for your time and we thank you for joining us. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend. Don't forget, listen, watch that email on time today. Look forward to the email tomorrow where you get your assignment. And then next week, we're going to track our time. Okay? Take care, everybody.